A lot of the documents that I like to use from time to time in Fundamentals for Business are actually the same materials that I might use for my English Fundamentals 2 class or something like that. So this is a quick reminder that I'd like to put together on sentence structure. And again, I don't think any of this is material that is new to you and you're familiar with it. So let's just remind you of what I think you probably already know. Simple sentence is just going to be defined as a complete thought containing a single subject, a verb, and a complement. And there's a question mark there. I don't need a complement, so possibly a complement. I would include in my simple sentence simple modifiers, adjectives and adverbs, and maybe a prepositional phrase, which can only act like an adjective or an adverb. A little bit of description, subject, verb. Remember, we write the way that we listen. Who did what to whom? For example, Ed bought a cup of coffee. I have of coffee in a parentheses. That is a prepositional phrase. I can probably get by without it, but it tells me what kind of cup. Ed is my subject. That's who. Bought is the verb. Did what. Cup is the complement, a direct object in this case. Of coffee simply describes that. It would be weird to say Ed bought. Ed bought what? To be a complete thought, I need to add something. But in this case, I have one subject, one verb, and a single idea, unless I have a compound subject or some type of compound verb. For example, compound subject, Ed and Sally bought a cup of coffee. Ed and Sally together make up my subject. Ed bought a cup of coffee and brought donuts. Bought and brought are the things that Ed did. That's called a compound verb. Finally, I can have a compound direct object. Ed bought a cup of coffee and a bagel. Subject Ed, verb is bought, cup of coffee and a bagel are the direct objects that he bought. Now, if I move on here, compound sentences take two complete thoughts and join them with a comma and a conjunction. And, but, or, for, nor, yet, or so. Sometimes I've got to fool around with my verb to use something like nor. But anyways, these use a comma and a conjunction. I just have and, but, or, and so right there to keep it simple to connect two complete thoughts of equal importance, and that's a big deal. If I'm talking about a complex sentence, I have two ideas, each with a subject and a verb, but one of them is not a complete thought, and that's going to be descriptive. A compound sentence, I have two ideas, and they're both related, but they're both of equal importance, and they're both going to be sentences on their own. That means neither idea is used to describe. Ed bought a cup of coffee, comma, so he could have change. So, with that comma, is the conjunction that joins two things. Ed bought a cup of coffee, he could have change. Neither of those ideas is less important. If you prefer, you could sneak a semicolon between two ideas without a conjunction. Ed bought a cup of coffee, he had change. I would warn you, you probably don't want to overdo semicolons throughout what you're writing. It makes it a little bit more difficult sometimes to figure out what you're getting at. And if you ask people to work a little bit harder to understand you, they might just stop altogether. Now, the last piece that I'm coming down to here are complex sentences. I'm taking two different ideas that have subjects and verbs, but I'm going to put a subordinate conjunction at the front end of one of those ideas, a word like because, or if, or although, or when, or where. And that changes that particular idea into a sentence fragment, and B, something descriptive that needs to connect to the bigger idea that it's describing. So what this says is, these take an idea that's a complete thought, adds a dependent word. I'm going to call it a subordinate conjunction. Most of your textbooks use that phrase at the beginning to make it a subordinate clause. I use the word dependent because some books use the word dependent instead. And that means the idea with the subordinate clause is no longer a complete thought. It is then joined to a more important idea that is a complete thought. The dependent word makes it descriptive. All of that is a lot of words. Take a look at my example here. I put the word after at the front of what would have been a perfectly good sentence. Ed bought coffee. Let me try that again and highlight it better. When I put after Ed bought coffee, it's no longer a sentence. It tells me when he had change. He had change after Ed bought coffee. The more important idea is he had change. After makes the first idea an adverb to say when this happened. If I look at my second example there, Ed had change after he bought coffee. After he bought coffee is not a sentence. It simply says when Ed had change. After is that subordinate conjunction. Since it cannot move, after he bought coffee is an adverb clause. Now let's see here. I don't want to highlight things. I want to move down. Maybe that's not what I want to do that way. Bear with me. Here we go. Now, if I take a look at this, what kind of sentence have I got? My choices are a simple sentence, a compound sentence joining two ideas with a comma and a conjunction, or a complex sentence. Now we're going to go over this and do this in class, but as long as we're here, let me look at this, okay? I have two ideas. He gave out candy for Halloween. Everybody rang the bell. Because I have a comma and a conjunction here, I'm joining something that's an independent clause. He gave out candy for Halloween, and an independent clause. Everybody rang the bell. That makes this a compound sentence. But look at the next. Although he squints, he can't read the page. Now I have a comma, but I don't have a conjunction there. It doesn't say and or so, but I do have a subordinate conjunction at the beginning. He squints is a very simple sentence. He can't read the page is a simple sentence. Those are complete ideas. But as soon as I put the word although in there, I change one of those ideas to be descriptive. Although he squints, comma, he can't read the page. He can't read the page is the bigger idea. That makes this a complex sentence. Now, what I will do is end this quick reminder right now because this will be a class activity, and I will post a corrected version here shortly.